Trump Jr. is drawing attention to the calls for violence against President Trump in the mainstream media, including by a prominent celebrity and political pundits. In a tweet today, he suggests the latest national unrest could be a direct result of incitement by the left. Take a look.
I just don't even know why there aren't uprisings all over the country, and maybe there will be.
People need to start taking to the streets. This is a dictator.
You know, there needs to be unrest in the streets for as long as there's unrest in our lives.
Enemies of the state.
Show me where it says that protests are supposed to be polite and peaceful.
Do something about your dad's immigration practices, you feckless.
When they go low, we kill.
How do you resist the temptation to run up and wring her neck?
The biggest terror threat in this country is white men, most of them radicalized up to the right.
I thought he should have punched him in the face. I said, even if you lost, he insulted your wife.
Yes.
He came down the escalator and called Mexicans rapists and murderers. He said, well, what do you think I should have done? I said, I think you should have punched him in the face and then gotten out of the race. You would have been a hero.
I'd like to punch him in the face. I said if we were in high school, I'd take him behind the gym and beat the hell out of him. Punch some people in the face!
When was the last time an actor assassinated a president?
They're still going to have to go out and put a bullet in Donald Trump, and that's a fact.
Look as his character is stabbed to death.
Where is John Wilkes Booth when you need him?
I have thought an awful lot about blowing up the White House.
A Missouri state senator is under investigation by the Secret Service after saying she hopes President Trump is assassinated.
I will go and take Trump out tonight.
And if you see anybody from that cabinet in a restaurant, in a department store, at a gasoline station, you get out and you create a crowd. And you push back on them. And you tell them they're not welcome anymore, anywhere.
And sadly, the domestic enemies to our voting system and our honoring our Constitution are right at 1600 Pennsylvania Avenue.
They're not going to stop before Election Day in November, and they're not going to stop after Election Day. And that should be, everyone should take note of that on both levels, that this isn't, they're not going to let up, and they should not.
If you think we're rallying now, you ain't seen nothing yet.
Donald Trump Jr. slams Joe Biden over his half-hearted criticism of far-left riots in Wisconsin. In a tweet today, the Trump Organization executive highlighted a report by Reuters, that found members of the Biden campaign were bailing out BLM activists from jail. Meanwhile, Biden tried to criticize rioters and looters in his recent speech in Pennsylvania. Trump Jr. says Biden can't pretend to oppose the rioters while helping them avoid justice at the same time. Democrat vice presidential candidate Kamala Harris is now condemning violence across the nation, just months after touting to help fund the release of violent demonstrators from jail. One America's Grace Rust explains.
Democrat vice presidential nominee Kamala Harris is flip-flopping her stance on nationwide riots after previously encouraging the public to help bail out violent demonstrators just months prior. Taking to Twitter Sunday, Harris shared a post by her running mate Joe Biden, who called a deadly shooting during Portland's continued civil unrest unacceptable. Biden was referring to the death of an apparent Trump supporter at the hands of a self-disclosed Antifa member, following clashes between protesters and conservative activists. Harris now saying, quote, I join Biden in condemning the violence.
Burning down communities is not protest, it's needless violence. Violence that endangers lives. Violence that guts businesses and shutters businesses that serve the community. That's wrong.
This comes in stark contrast to her posts earlier this summer. Back in June, Harris donated and promoted the Minnesota Freedom Fund, an organization that raises bail money for incarcerated individuals at a time when the city was ravaged by looting, vandalism, and violent riots.
This is a movement, I'm telling you. They're not going to stop. And everyone beware, because they're not going to stop. They're not going to stop before Election Day in November, and they're not going to stop after Election Day. And that should be, everyone should take note of that on both levels, that this isn't, they're not going to let up, and they should not.
Reports say among those released by the MFF included an alleged murderer and a previously convicted rapist. Additionally, the Biden-Harris ticket has also ramped up attacks on the president. The Democrat duo has accused President Trump of encouraging the ongoing unrest, despite his continued calls for law and order and safety in the streets. Meanwhile, demonstrations demanding to defund the police continue, and riots stemming from those gatherings have been the epicenter of destruction and brutality in recent months, and have been tied to multiple deaths. President Trump has called Biden's condemnation of the attack on American cities too little, too late, adding the former VP remained silent on the issue up until last week. Grace Rust, One America News.